Have you ever inherited something you wished you could return? In today's horror story, I'll take you deep into the woods, where a haunted house isn't just built on old bones, but on a deal that never died. If you enjoy supernatural horror and folklore-inspired stories, hit that like button and let me know in the comments, what's the creepiest family secret you've ever heard of? I hadn't thought about my great-aunt Lorna in over 20 years. Honestly, I barely remembered her. A wiry old woman with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue who sent me a single Christmas card when I was 8, then disappeared into the folds of family silence like a ghost in heavy drapes. So when the lawyer called, some greasy-voiced man from a firm in Knoxville. I assumed it was a scam. You've inherited a property, he said, a farmhouse and surrounding land, roughly 13 acres, in Ashe County, formerly owned by Lorna May Hargrove. You are the last living heir named in the will. I laughed. You sure you've got the right number? He rattled off my full name, birthday, and last 4 digits of my social security number. All correct. I stopped laughing. That was 2 weeks ago. Now I'm here, behind the wheel of my Honda Civic, bumping up a dirt road barely wide enough for the car. Branches scrape against the signs like fingers trailing a casket. GPS gave up 20 minutes ago. The map turned gray. No signal. Just one red pin marking Hargrove property like a blood drop in a forest of green. I was never close with my family. My mom died young, and my dad bounced me between relatives like a bad check. Lorna was one of the few who took me in, though only for a few months. She lived up here, deep in the mountains, and even as a kid, I remembered being afraid of the woods that hugged her house on all sides. Thick woods, quiet woods, the kind of quiet that makes your ears ring. Now, after years of living in cities and chasing freelance photography gigs, I'm back. There's a sudden gap in the trees, and I pull into a gravel driveway, tires crunching. The house squats at the center of the clearing like a beetle, low, dark, and segmented. 2 stories tall, with siding gone gray with age. Window shutters hang loose like broken limbs. The porch sags, but it's still standing. I kill the engine. The air is heavy, not humid, just dense, like I'm breathing through cloth. The kind of air that smells like wet bark and cold dirt. I grab my backpack and the key the lawyer mailed me. One of those old iron skeleton keys. Charming in a haunted house kind of way. The front door creaks open too easily. Inside, the air is dry but stale. Dust motes hang in the sunlight that filters through warped glass. The living room is surprisingly intact, furniture under white sheets, fireplace cold but clean. A dozen old picture frames on the wall, turned around so the photos face the wood. I don't touch them. The house is quiet in the way old places are, alive with groans and subtle shifts. Like it's remembering how to breathe with someone inside. I drop my bag in the kitchen and start poking around. Pantry's empty, save for a few glass jars sealed tight with wax. No labels. One's filled with a dark red liquid, another with feathers. I don't open them. In the hallway, I find what must have been Lorna's study. Papers cover the desk, scrawled with writing in what looks like charcoal or ash. Strange looping script I don't recognize. The margins are filled with tiny drawings, figures standing in circles, trees with eyes, women with roots for hair. Probably folk art. She always was eccentric. I find a note, handwritten in ballpoint on yellowing lined paper. If you're reading this, then I've failed. The land wakes. The debt stirs. It skips the blood of daughters, but never sons. Get out. Burn the house. Salt the roots. I stare at it. Behind me, something creaks. Floorboards. I turn. Nothing. Just the empty hall stretching back toward the living room. The walls feel closer than before. I fold the note and slip it into my pocket. I'm not the superstitious type. Never believed in ghosts or curses or whatever the hell this is. But something about this place, it breathes wrong. I feel like I'm trespassing, even though it's mine now. I decide to stay one night. Just one. Take some photos. Get an appraisal. Maybe flip it. Maybe sell it to some horror-loving hipster who thinks haunted houses are chic. But that night, just after midnight, I wake to the sound of scraping, slow, deliberate, under the floorboards, and then I hear the whisper. A woman's voice. Low. Crooning. Right below my bed. You came back. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. Not after the voice. Not after I heard the slow shuffle of something moving beneath the floorboards. Something that stopped exactly under where I lay. Then sat still and silent like it knew I was holding my breath. I didn't get out of bed. Didn't turn on the light. I just waited, staring at the ceiling while the shadows outside crept along the walls like smoke. When morning came, I convinced myself it was a dream. A trick of memory, stirred up by a strange place and a weirder note. But when I walked across the wooden floor near the foot of the bed, I noticed something. A knot in the wood, just beneath the rug, was burned. Not just charred. Branded. A symbol etched in soot. A spiral of thorns wrapping inward to a sharp point. It looked like a snare, or maybe a root system. I touched it. The wood was cold. Too cold. That's when I decided to explore the rest of the house. I needed to understand what I was standing on. The daylight made things easier. Not better, just brighter. I started in the attic, thinking I'd find old trunks, yellowing newspapers, maybe a box of photos. What I found was far stranger. The attic was tall and dry, its beams thick with spider webs and dust. And in the far corner, behind a curtain of moth-eaten quilts, was a door. A small one. Barely 4 feet high. I hesitated, then ducked and opened it. Beyond was a narrow crawl space, barely wide enough for my shoulders. The walls were lined with bottles, old mason jars, each one filled with herbs, bone fragments, feathers, and pressed flowers blackened with age. Some were broken. One had been smashed recently, its contents strewn across the floor like a burst offering. At the end of the crawl space, I found a box. Oak, maybe. It had no latch, no keyhole, just carvings, those same spiraling root symbols, plus one I hadn't seen before, a crooked tree with 5 branches, each ending in a sharp curl. Inside the box were 2 things. First, a bundle of letters, tied in red twine. The paper was old, but the ink still bold. They were addressed to Lorna May Hargrove and signed Mother Etta. The second item was worse. A mask, not a costume shop mask. No, this one was made from bark, real bark, stitched together with hair and something like twine. Hollow eye holes, no mouth. Just grooves carved into the surface like tears running upward. I didn't touch it. I brought the letters downstairs and started reading. The first was dated 1952. Lorna, you mustn't break the ring. If the 5th root is disturbed, the bargain fractures. Keep the wards sealed. Keep the mother fed. The land remembers when the blood forgets, and you will forget, child. That's part of the price. Mother Etta. The rest were similar, warnings, cryptic instructions, strange blessings sealed with spirals. Some had wax imprints of the tree symbol. One included a pressed flower, now rotted to black dust. By the 5th letter, I started to realize something. This wasn't religion. It was older than that. Folk practice, Appalachian witchcraft, root work, the kind that never made it into history books. Lorna hadn't just inherited this house, she'd inherited a role, a responsibility. And judging by the note she left me, she'd failed. Later that afternoon, I drove into the nearest town, a place called Mourner's Gap, little more than a diner, a gas station, and a post office tucked between two ridges. I asked the waitress about the Hargrove house. Her eyes narrowed. You related? Great nephew, I said. Never really knew her. She nodded slowly, then muttered, Then you best not stay long. I waited for more, but she just walked away. Outside, a man in his 60s, long coat, rough hands, eyes like weathered glass, leaned against a pickup truck and smoked. He'd been watching me through the diner window. You from the Hargrove place? He asked. Yeah. Why? He tossed his cigarette. That land ain't just land. It's claimed. Old blood. Old rules. Your aunt kept things in balance for a while. You knew her. Everyone did. Nobody liked her. He stepped closer, but we all let her be. She was the last ward, the fifth root. When she passed, we all felt it. Felt the ground shift. I tried to laugh. What are you talking about? He didn't smile. There's things in the soil up there. Things that grow without sun. They remember names. Yours now, I guess. I took a step back. What do you mean, ward? He leaned in. You'll find it. Probably already started. The dreams. The whispers. The tree with 5 arms. I didn't answer. You'll want to leave, he said. You'll try. But the land keeps what it's owed. I left town fast. The road back felt longer. The shadows came quicker. When I pulled into the driveway, the trees around the house looked closer than they had that morning, like they'd leaned in. That night, I found the root cellar. It was hidden beneath the pantry, a loose board beneath an old barrel. When I pried it up, I found stone steps spiraling down into cold black. I took a flashlight. Regret came quickly. The cellar wasn't just storage. It was a chamber, circular. Walls made of old stone, overgrown with moss and something else, vein-like roots, running along the walls and pulsing faintly beneath the beam of my light. In the center was a circle of stones. 5 flat rocks arranged like a star. Burn marks around the edges. Dried wax. Feathers. Bone fragments. The same spiral symbol was etched into the floor, wide enough to stand in. I stepped back. My light flickered. Then I heard it. A whisper, the same voice from under my bed. Only this time, I could make out words. You were born from her roots. You carry her dead. My flashlight went out. I ran, slammed the pantry shut, nailed it closed with boards I found in the shed. Outside, the wind was howling, though the trees weren't moving. The mask was gone from the attic. In its place, a flower pressed to the wall, fresh, red as blood, shaped like a spiral. I didn't sleep that night, and in the morning, when I checked the back of my neck in the mirror, I found a mark burned into the skin, the crooked tree. 5 branches. The bark had taken root in me. I didn't leave the house the next day. Not because I didn't want to believe me, I did, but because I couldn't. Every time I tried to start the car, the engine clicked once, then went silent. I checked the battery. Fine. Fuel? Tank's half full. Nothing was wrong, and yet the damn thing wouldn't turn over. I would have walked. I tried. I packed a bag, put on my boots, and headed down the overgrown trail behind the property, thinking it'd lead to the highway. After maybe 20 minutes of hiking, I saw something that made my stomach drop. A fence post. Rotten. Tilted sideways. Wrapped in rusted barbed wire. I'd passed it before on the way out. I was back where I started. I tried again. Same result. No matter which direction I walked, the trees twisted the path back toward the house, like they were folding space. Or maybe folding me. By the third attempt, the forest had changed. The bark on the trees looked darker. The leaves didn't rustle in the wind. And at one point, I saw a deer not moving, just standing there, staring at me. Its eyes were completely black, and its legs were bent the wrong way. I ran. That night, the dreams returned, not like before. Worse. I in the dream, I was beneath the house, not in the cellar, deeper, down in the roots, twisting tunnels of bark and earth, the walls breathing softly, as if the whole place were alive. And then I saw her. At first, she looked human. A woman wrapped in moss and roots, hair like willow branches, face turned away. But when she turned, the skin peeled like bark, eyes hollow, mouth sewn shut with thorns. Her chest split open like a rotting log, and inside were faces. Faces like mine, eyes wide, mouths open, all screaming without sound. She reached toward me. I woke up gasping. My hands were covered in soil. I'd been digging. In my sleep, there was dirt under my nails, and something sharp in my palm. A tooth, human, cracked, still warm. I knew I had to find answers. I went back into the attic. This time, I brought the box of letters with me. I laid them out in order and started reading every line. The language was arcane, some mix of Old English and mountain slang, but I pieced together what I could. The gist was this. Long ago, maybe 200 years back, a woman named Etta came from across the sea. She was what they called a root wife, a midwife, healer, witch, if you want to be blunt, but not the broomstick kind. No, Etta dealt in bargains. She settled on this land and made a pact with something ancient beneath the hills. The being had many names, but one repeated in the letters, the rooted mother. She wasn't a god, not a devil, something older, something that fed on bloodlines and memory. In exchange for protection, good harvests, health, and long life, Etta promised her a line of daughters to serve as keepers, guardians, witches, if you will. But there was a catch. The pact skipped the daughters every few generations. It claimed the sons. As vessels. As payment. As roots for the mother to return through. Lorna had no children of her own, but she knew the line continued. To me. I found more symbols etched into the baseboards that night, not with a knife, but grown. Like the wood itself had been twisted into spirals and sigils. I set up my camera to record overnight. Old reflex. What it captured made me sick. Around 3:12 a.m., the footage shows me rising from bed. My eyes are closed. My movements slow and unnatural, like I'm being puppeteered. I walk barefoot to the hallway, press my forehead to the wall, and begin to hum. A low, throaty tone that sounds like multiple voices layered together. Then I lift my hand and press it against the plaster. I watch my fingers dig in, not just the nails, the whole hand phasing into the wall like it's mud. Then I vanish. The footage ends there. I woke up back in bed. That morning, I got a knock at the door. It was the man from the diner parking lot. The one with the coat and the glassy eyes. "You've seen her, haven't you?" he asked. I didn't answer. He stepped inside without asking, looked around, then walked straight to the kitchen. "How long you been hearing the whispers?" I just nodded. My voice didn't work. "You're marked," he said. "It's already started. The rooted mother's waking up. She's using you to grow back into this world." I showed him the mark on my neck. That he didn't flinch, just sighed. "There's only one way to stop her. Burn the house." I asked. He shook his head. "Too late for that. Fire won't stop roots. They'll just grow back stronger." "Then what?" He looked me in the eye. "You have to finish the circle." "What circle?" "The warding ring." Lorna kept it sealed. 5 points of protection around the land. One for each branch of the old tree. But it broke when she died. You need to restore it. Complete the ritual. I frowned. "You expect me to perform witchcraft?" "I expect you to live. That's the price. You want out, you have to play her game." He handed me something. A jar, filled with dark red liquid and tiny bones. "A piece of her is still in the land. he said. Bury this where the roots twist. She'll come, but if the circle's complete, she won't be able to stay. Then he left, and no name. No goodbye, just the creak of the screen door and the growing whisper in the walls. That night, I opened the cellar again. The circle of stones was glowing, and from the center, something had begun to grow. A small sprout, black and red, pushed through the stone. It pulsed like a heartbeat, and as I watched, it whispered a name, mine. I didn't sleep again. Not that I didn't try, I did. But even with every window sealed, the whispering found a way in. Through the floorboards, through the walls, through the silence. By midnight, the lights had gone dead. Not just in the house. All of Mourner's Gap. I called the electric company. No answer. Phone lines? Cut. My cell? Full bars, no signal. Just static. And the whispering wasn't whispering anymore. It had become a chant. Words I didn't understand, layered in tones that vibrated my bones. A language that didn't belong in this century, maybe not even in this world. That's when the house started to bleed. It came from the knot in the wood at the foot of my bed. The one that had been branded with the spiral. A dark, viscous fluid slowly seeped from it, thick as sap, black as oil, and reeking of iron and rot. Where it touched the floor, mushrooms bloomed. Small, red, bioluminescent. They pulsed in rhythm with the chanting. I had to move. I had to finish what the man with the glassy eyes told me. I had to complete the circle. I gathered the items, the jar of bone and blood, the last letter from Mother Etta, which hinted at the warding sights, a coil of twine woven with human hair. And I went outside. The forest was no longer the same. The trees leaned inward. Their bark had grown into faces, some screaming, some silent, some weeping blood. The roots moved when I stepped near, curling away like worms, but I could feel it. A pull. Each warding point revealed itself as I walked. An old scarecrow with no field. A well with no water. A child's swing made of bones. A stone circle, cracked down the middle. And finally, the crooked tree, blackened by lightning, where 5 crows perched silently. I placed the jar beneath its roots. As soon as I did, the earth screamed, not metaphorically. I heard it, a groan that echoed through the soil like the planet was in pain. Then silence. The air went still, and then she came. She rose from the ground behind the house. At first, she was just roots, groping out of the soil like fingers. Then limbs. A torso. A head crowned with antlers made of bone. She was tall, towering, wrapped in moss and human skin. Her hair writhed like willow branches underwater. Her face, there was no face, just a hollow, bark-covered skull, and where I should have been, 2 spirals burned. She stepped forward. The ground rotted beneath her feet. Flowers withered, bark peeled off trees. The air grew sour with mold and old breath, and then she spoke, not aloud, inside my mind. You wear her blood. You bear her debt, and now you will root me again. I tried to run. I couldn't move. My legs buckled, and I fell into the dirt. The roots reached for me, not to grab, but to enter. They wormed under my skin, pressing into my spine, winding around my ribs like serpents made of bone and bark. I saw everything. A vision. Her memory, or maybe mine, Etta's ritual, her hands buried deep in the earth, her voice crying out in tongues, a child being offered, a son, not killed, planted, buried alive, fed to the rooted mother. And generation after generation, the same cycle repeated, until Lorna broke it. She refused the offering. She sealed the 5th root with blood, her own, and the mother slept, until now, because I had returned, because the land remembered, and now I was the offering. But something changed. The twine around my wrist, the one made of hair, ignited. Fire erupted along the circle of wards. The tree screamed. The ground shook. The mother reeled backward as if struck. The roots shrieked and recoiled, black smoke billowing from her body. She reached for me one last time, but the circle held, and then she collapsed into ash. The earth swallowed her. The chanting stopped. The house exhaled, and I was alone. I thought it was over. I burned the letters, tore down the attic door, sealed the cellar, sold the house, never looked back. Months passed. I moved to the city, took a job, saw a therapist, got a dog. Life returned. Normal. Then, last night, the dog barked at the hallway mirror. Wouldn't stop. Just stared and growled and barked, over and over. When I looked, I didn't see my reflection. I saw her. Not fully. Just a glimpse. A flicker of roots in my eyes. And then I smiled. But I didn't mean to. The rooted mother may have sunk back into the soil, but stories like these have a way of growing again. If this folklore horror chilled you, make sure to subscribe for more haunted house tales, witchcraft stories, and first-person narratives that dig beneath the surface. And let me ask you this: if you discovered your bloodline was cursed, would you fight it or let it take root?